Welcome everyone to another edition of Willow's Weather Briefing. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. The heat wave that has shattered records is at its tail end of the eastern U.S. However, portions of the country will remain very hot until late week into the weekend. Temperatures around the Delmarva vicinity will remain into the upper 90s, possibly reaching triple digits again, while New England temperatures should begin to cool down. Meanwhile, a flash flooding sequence is underway in the Midwest, while incoming upper level flow will bring severe weather back to the northern plains late this week. Pretty quiet in the western U.S. overall, with normal to slightly below average temperatures. Above average temperatures for much of the eastern U.S., below average temperatures for those north of the stationary front in the northern plains and upper Midwest, as well as those experiencing rainfall in New Mexico and the high plains. Here are some records broken yesterday, June 24th. You can see here up to 105 degrees in the Baltimore Inner Harbor. Here in the Washington International Airport, we tied the observed record previously set in 2010. Some of these records were all set in 2010. Some other records here in Hagerstown Regional Airport, Martinsburg Regional Airport, and some high lows records. It's when the low temperature of the day reaches higher than before. So, pretty prolific heat wave, and we can move on to our next NWS office here in Philadelphia and Mount Holly. Allentown, Atlantic City, reaching 102 degrees. Georgetown reaching 100 degrees. Philadelphia reaching 101 degrees. Reading 100 degrees. Widespread above 100-degree temperatures, confirming the fact that yesterday was actually more prolific of a heat day than Monday, and Monday was brutal enough. And here is our record high temperatures for NWS in New York. We have Newark, New Jersey reaching 103 degrees, tying the record. Kennedy, New York, 102 degrees. So again, pretty prolific heat wave throughout the east. Yesterday was definitely a bit hotter than on Monday. So here is the current drought monitor map. The solid lines demarcate the areas of greatest concern with drought. And here is our current watches and warnings, excessive heat watches all over the eastern United States still, but it is going to be a bit cut off with northern extent as we get this cold air mass shunting a little bit to the south as we get the weakening of the upper level ridge over here. Still, we have extreme heat warnings over here in the mid-Atlantic coast as well as the Delmarva Peninsula and areas around there. Also on some of the west side of the Appalachians in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. Otherwise, we have flood watches here in New Mexico and the Trans-Pecos region here in Texas, associated with some additional moisture flux from the Gulf impinging into this region. Also, some flash flood warnings here in the Midwest, but that flood threat should come into fruition later today. Here is our surface fronts and sea level pressure. As you can see here, we have a cold air mass trying to make its way south, but this stubborn ridge will not stop, but it is slowly depleting. So we will see a further shunting of that cold front a bit south later on, which will bring much needed heat relief for areas such as New York City and the rest of New England that haven't experienced those cooler temperatures just yet. On the flip side, we have rainy conditions here in the Midwest associated with the stationary front trying to push its way south, but that ridge will just not let it. So we will have a warm front which will bring additional moisture flux into the upper Midwest, which will bring additional flooding threats and rainfall to these regions. Yesterday, we had a pretty good flooding event in New Mexico, and the similar mechanisms will cause that flooding threat there again today, especially the Trans-Pecos region all the way up to the Sacramento Mountains down here in southern New Mexico. Later on this week, we will see the continuation of that high pressure just slowly depleting, and then we will see some low pressure systems try to make its way over this ridging. This ridging is pretty stubborn, but we will continue to see some low pressure systems riding along the periphery of the ridge, which will bring us some disturbed weather in and around these low pressure systems. Here is our excessive rainfall outlook. Two areas of slight risk, one over here in New Mexico. The greatest concern, of course, is down here near the Sacramento Mountains. 2 to 3 inches of rain is likely in these areas, around 2 inches of rain elsewhere. And here in the Midwest, especially over here in the Minneapolis region into Wisconsin, is the greatest concern there. Perhaps up to 5 inches of rain in these areas of greatest concern. Around 3 inches of rain elsewhere in the slight risk. Day 2, we have another slight risk over here in the Midwest to Upper Great Lakes region. We have 1 to 2 inches of rain expected, with locally higher amounts, especially with northern extent. And day 3, we do have a slight risk of excessive rainfall here in Upper New England. Here is our day 1 fire weather outlook. Elevated fire weather risk here in northwestern Nevada. Otherwise, pretty quiet in terms of fire weather for day 2 and the extended range. Here is our convective outlook. Slight risks both for the southeastern U.S. associated with a tropical trough trying to make its way into here, bringing us some additional moisture into these areas, and also a slight risk of severe weather for portions of the Midwest into Central Plains associated with that stationary front. Both of them, primary risk is damaging wind. Also, some large hail is possible, and maybe a tornado or two for the Midwest risk. Tomorrow, broad marginal risks over here in the southeastern U.S., Midwest, and also for the northern high plains up here in Montana, mainly associated with similar mechanisms. Stationary front settled in over here, tropical wave settled in over here, and also the starting to see that impingement of that upper level flow into these regions of the northern plains. Then finally, day 3, we do have a chance of significant severe weather here in the northern plains to portions of the Sandhills in Nebraska. This is primarily going to be probably a large hail threat, but we still have a few days to go in terms of resolving the primary hazards. But this includes cities like Minot, Bismarck, Pierre, South Dakota, Valentine, Nebraska, and that is day 3 on Friday. Looking at our heat risk, we still have extreme heat over here around the Delmarva Peninsula. Again, I wouldn't be surprised to see triple digits reached again in some of these areas. We also have an extreme heat risk over here in the Ohio Valley towards the Allegheny Plateau. This is primarily because temperatures are much above average here compared to here, rather more above average here than over here. But as we move on to late week, we can see the ridge start to deplete as the widespread extreme temperatures start to minimize in spatial coverage. And eventually, by the weekend, we no longer see much extreme risk of heat anywhere in this region. So we definitely are on the tail end of this heat dome as the high pressure starts to lose its strength. But still, today, tomorrow, temperatures in the mid to upper 90s throughout these regions. Perhaps today we will see some triple digit temperatures here around the Delmarva region. Here is our extended range hazards outlook. We have significant heat expected here in the east, and also some severe weather expected in the northern plains, as well as some heavy rain over here in upper New England associated with that stationary front. Here's our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, June 30th through July 4th. Above average for the eastern U.S. and also northwestern U.S., below average for portions of the high plains down here. Here's our 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, above average for the southwestern U.S. and much of the U.S. for that matter. And finally, here is our HREF output just to get an idea on the timing of our storms. We'll have ongoing rainfall here in New Mexico throughout the morning, but that will deplete as we get into the afternoon hours. We will see a little bit of a rejuvenation down here. And for most of our precipitation risks, it is going to be a rejuvenation of precipitation by the afternoon hours. But over here in Minnesota, as you can see, we might have lingering rainfall associated with some short waves aloft, and we will see precipitation nearly all morning into the afternoon and evening hours for areas such as Minnesota and Wisconsin, this region over here, southeastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, perhaps northern Iowa. And that is the reason why our excessive rainfall risk is maximized in that region. You'll also see a rejuvenation of convection or rainfall here in the high plains, and that will occur, of course, in the afternoon hours. So that is going to be it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want. And as always, if you want any specific information regarding your area, please refer to your local broadcast or National Weather Service meteorologists. Thank you and have a great day.